Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Should Doctor, that podcast where we start a medical crisis for profit. Because this week we watched Dead of Night.
Written by Jane Espensen.
Directed by Billy Gerhardt.
And aired on July 22nd, 2011.
I've just gone all in on the Gerhardt pronunciation of that last name. It's just, if it's pronounced differently, I've gone all in on it. Wow.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Wow. This is weird. So I was like, okay, what else has Jane Espensen written? And I see here on a Wikipedia page that she's contributed to, like, Battlestar Galactica. And she wrote an episode of Game of Thrones. I'm like, all right, cool. She wrote some of Once Upon a Time. All right, nice. Jessica Jones. And then she's an executive producer of the HBO series The Nevers. Okay, cool. Along with creator Joss Whedon. And fellow Buffy alum Douglas Petrie. Which is just weird because last week we talked about Joss Whedon in the context of Buffy and Angel. And in between recording that episode and releasing that episode, a lot of allegations came out about Joss Whedon, and he is heavily in the news cycle right now. And this show hasn't even premiered yet, and was created by Joss Whedon. And I'm starting to wonder if HBO is going to keep him on if the series is successful. I guess we'll find out. It premieres on April 11th, apparently, 2021. Weird.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see, I guess.
It's weird that Joss Whedon is permeating a lot of the discussions around this show on this podcast.
He's a pretty big name in American TV, which is now the realm that we're in with Miracle Day. So
true. American TV and movies.
Yeah.
And movies. I mean, he directed The Avengers. We wouldn't have The Avengers if it weren't for Joss Whedon.
Oh no, what would we do without him?
We wouldn't have Justice League without him either. Oh no.
I'm also reading here that Jane Espensen co-created Warehouse 13, which is it was a decent series. I didn't watch all of it. I just watched like half of the first season, but it was a decent series from what I watched.
The middle series of that show are the best, in my opinion. The final season was the worst, in my opinion. It was clearly like, the final season was clearly them going, oh shoot, we have to like wrap up the show. How do we do this? And like wrap up all the plot threads we've introduced already. And the first season was very much they were still finding their footing. The middle seasons are pretty good.
Maybe it's a show we'll one day watch on Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast. Check that out.
Like Firefly, another Joss Whedon creation.
Right.
Anyway, Dead of Night, another episode that just hits different in 2021 with its discussion of healthcare for all and like free medical services. Something that's been heavily in the, shall we say, public realm of discussion since the pandemic started.
Right. Also goes heavily into the corruption and of corporations and big companies, and the fact that they're not really your friend. They're not really a friend of just the everyday person.
Shoot, you're telling me AMC is not my friend? You're telling me they don't have my back when I buy stock in them? You're telling me GameStop is not on my side? You're telling me Google has been selling me out for 20 years?
Maybe not 20. Or maybe 20. I don't know.
It's 2021. Google has existed since the 90s. So.
Yeah, but how long have they really been selling people out? Was it really in that first couple of years that they started selling your data?
Look, Google is a company that if they can make a profit on you, they will. And I firmly believe they've been doing that since they started in 1998.
Yeah, I would believe that too. I'm willing to sell my soul for convenience, though, so there you go.
Oh, okay. Sure. Why not?
Anyway, Dead of Night, as the title might suggest, takes us through the night and into the next morning.
Right. Children of Earth style.
He,
Sort of.
yeah, when did children? Yeah, I guess because Children of Earth was like every day.
Yeah, because
so.
but also you had a you had a long, well, it wasn't that long, and it wasn't really a diatribe, which is the word I was going to use, about how I think day 2 picked up where day 1 left off in the evening of day 1, so it wasn't really day 2 until halfway through the episode, because we saw what happened during the night of day 1 and day 2.
Exactly. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The BBC's false advertisements. See, they're really not your friends here.
Well, in season 4, Miracle Day, it's Stars that's partially to blame here.
For what? Labeling the
It's
episode
stars.
correctly?
No, for all the false advertising and for the gratuitous simultaneous sex scenes that got partially cut in the BBC transmission. Stars is responsible
Oh,
for
yeah,
that.
that's actually surprising. Usually it's the US that's a bit more Puritan.
Stars is a premium channel, so they can get away with more. I mean, HBO just goes full tits out on like Game of Thrones, so, and that's another premium channel. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. And I think Black Sails also goes full tits out, and that's on Stars. So I don't know why that is the phrase I chose for that, but I'm sticking to it. So Torchwood begins with them basically ditching the car and using this small little, I don't know, bungalow in this decrepit, rundown bungalow that they found as a base of operations.
It's sort of just an abandoned like building or a room in like it's a small-ish room in an abandoned building. I assumed we don't really ever see this contextualized in like a larger, we don't really see where it is or have any sense of where it is in relation to anything else. But
yeah, I do think it is a smaller part of a larger building. They're not using the entire building. I think you're right on that. So Gwen uses Jack's credit card to buy them some new clothes and new cell phones.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things here at the beginning. One is an interview with Danes. I believe that's how the episode opens. Is he's being interviewed on TV, and he sort of explains his, I guess, ideology, or the one he's come to espouse now that he's out of prison. But he doesn't fully explain it. I believe in this opening scene he just talks about like free access to drugs or something like that.
Yeah, he basically talks about how we need pain medication now to help manage the things that we have to live with.
Right. And then Rex decides to hold up Brian. I believe that's before they get to their little hideout or go back to it. You're in Brian's house, and Rex just holds him up.
I think you're right. Yeah.
He gets his phone. He gets Brian's the phone that Brian had been using to contact whoever was behind all of this, or whoever they deduce was behind all of it.
Right. And so here comes the Amazon X-ray fun fact of the week. I hope you're prepared. I hope you're ready for this, because this is just mind-blowing. This was just the greatest Amazon X-ray fun fact of the week that's ever been in an episode of Trust Your Doctor. Wayne Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Pause for dramatic effect.
Who plays Brian, just making that clear again.
Who plays Brian and has played Newman. Used to work as a private detective before he was an actor.
Yeah, it is pretty mind-blowing. Man, imagine that career shift.
Yeah.
I literally can't.
I think the specifics was it was between acting jobs. So I think after, I think I looked it up to confirm. After he worked on Broadway, and after working on Broadway, He was a private investigator for a while. Then he became like an actor. Actor.
God, that's so weird.
I think that's how that happened. I think that chronology is correct.
uh, Being a private detective seems a lot more interesting than being an actor.
Yeah, you probably don't get as much money though.
Yeah, true. I guess it depends. I mean, if you're a small time actor who's just taking chump change roles in like nothing movies, then
Yeah, but his like third movie was Jurassic
yeah.
Park, directed by Steven Spielberg. So
Yeah, I'm not
like,
saying that that's what he is. I'm just saying like if you're an actor who also has to have your day job still, then you're probably getting more money as the private eye.
sure. I'll agree with that.
But yeah, if you're Wayne Knight, is like
I'll buy
maybe
that
that's
for a
why he
dollar.
went back.
So yeah, he's out of the episode.
Yeah. Rex basically he doesn't shoot him. He threatens to shoot him, but he basically just uh, deafens him, probably
Yeah, he's like, don't go
permanently.
deaf. Yeah, yeah.
There's going to be some lasting effects from that.
Perhaps.
Whether I mean, even in real life where healing thankfully still exists, like you can suffer permanent damage. I think from you know having a gunshot go off right next to your ear, like literally centimeters away. So
Yes, you would. Yes.
so in this world where healing doesn't exist, yeah. Then they spike a cop car to make their getaway.
Yeah. Yeah. They well they need to get a new car after this. So they're like, I guess, having a thievery competition and trying to decide what car they're going to steal, who's going to steal what car. And Gwen just picks up a brick and throws it through the car window, and she's like, "There you go, stole a car."
Really one-upping Children of Earth.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, really going for the criminal aspect of Torchwood, really reinforcing that these are not good people. Just really want to make that clear for everyone.
Yeah, and there's even a scene later, which I'm sure we'll talk about pretty extensively, where Gwen shows that she's kind of turned over a new leaf a little bit, but Jack is still a bit stuck in the past.
Yeah, Jack's living in the before times.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna. I was gonna bring up a whole thing with COVID, and I'm not gonna reference it, but
The
yeah,
before times.
exactly.
So they have this discussion because Jack looks up morphic fields, and turns out everybody's done that. But then Esther's basically like, well, I can read through all these articles because that's like what I did. I never went into the field. My job was reading articles and blog posts and doing cyber stuff, so I can look through that. And they have kind of this moment of realization where they're like, it's not just that everybody's not dying, it's that they're more alive. Like, and they bring up Lynn from last episode, who Rex snapped her neck, and they're like, she should have been paralyzed. Like, even if she was still alive, that would have severed all the nerve connections from her brain to her body. Like, she should have been paralyzed. But she wasn't. She could still move and walk. So, that doesn't really come up anymore in this episode, but I think it's going to be important to the overarching plot, so I felt necessary to mention it.
Right. Two other things here that also are probably going to be somewhat important, at least, are the Soulless, which is the name of the cult that has formed around obviously the miracle. And Esther reveals that she has a sister here as well, because as soon as Gwen gives them their new phone, she like tries to call her sister or something like that, and Rex kind of chews her out for it.
Well, she's putting the numbers into her phone, I think, is the thing.
Yeah, and Rex is like he goes off on her for this.
Mm-hmm.
So those will probably,
And that's when she reveals that she used to just sit at the desk and never went into the
yeah.
field. So
There's also a
good
lot in
times.
this scene about differences in terminology between the UK and the US, which, since we now have a segment about that, I guess we can save it for then. The show just doing our work for us.
Yeah, it was like great. The show just giving it to us this week.
Yeah. They come up with this lead on a company called Ficor.
Yeah, again, hitting different in 2020 sounds a lot like Pfizer. But anyway, just gonna throw that, drop it, and leave. So they find this FICOR connection. So they decide to go investigate, and they do that by going to FICOR, all of them, in the new car that they stole.
Yeah, one of their warehouses, I believe.
And they crack open the warehouse, and what should they find but just boxes of drugs? Just drugs as far as the eye could see.
Yeah, Rex, who's like been aching for painkillers, pun intended, just starts like downing these like they're.
Yeah, he basically downs one right there on the floor.
But yeah, then they go even further into Ficor, and they go into an even larger, like massive, just like to bring it all back to Doctor Who, Kerblam-esque, warehouse. Yeah, you forgot about Kerblam, didn't you? It was a solid episode.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, maybe someone out there did and is listening to this.
It's just really interesting because that's like not a reference that could have been made when this aired. But as a reference we can make now that Kerblam exists.
Yeah, really messing with the timeline here. Really messing with history, I guess. But no, yeah, they see this massive warehouse, and it's just, it's full of the same painkillers.
So they find evidence that these painkillers were produced before the miracle happened. Like they were ready to go when the miracle happened, and they basically find evidence that Ficor knew it was going to happen.
Right.
So they go back to their little base. Rex wants to basically leak this to the public. He wants to put it out there and make it known. So he calls up an old buddy of his, ex-CIA, and they're going to meet at this hotel. And the Torchwood gang goes to watch the hotel, waiting to see who shows up. In a very Inferno-esque scene, now that I think about it. And the CIA shows up, and they're like, shoot. Well, guess he's compromised as well. Everybody's looking for us.
Right. This was actually a really interesting scene to me because, it goes to show you that they really don't have anyone to rely on other than themselves. Mm-hmm. Yet that seemed a bit at odds with what we got for the rest of the episode. Obviously, they're not really all that well known. It's just the CIA that's looking for them. It's not like the members of the general, populace would know, but it does seem like they can kind of just walk around the streets of DC freely. Mm-hmm. So it just seemed a little at odds with what was being shown to us in this scene. I don't know. Not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
The show is definitely introducing us to the, especially with the soulless in this episode, to how different people are reacting or acting differently now in the after times.
Yeah, and I do kind of like this sort of idea that, like, they're undercover almost. They have this sort of free reign. I don't know. There's something. They maybe fall into this false sense of security, which they do, like literally in the scene we're about to get to. But it just goes to show you the scene where Rex's buddy sells them out. Just goes to show you that there is really no one that they can rely on, and that maybe they are being a bit too lax about this.
Yeah, and even in the preview for next week, it seems like they're going to touch on this because there's that line that's basically like they're treating this like a game. Torchwood's treating this like a game.
Oh, yeah, true.
And people are going to die.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And I'm curious to see what the context of that is going to be like, but I assume we'll see next week, because Rex is saying it to Esther, I believe. It seems like that's the case anyway.
Mm-hmm. At this point, Rex is just really fed up, and he decides to just bail.
Yeah, he just leaves with the car, so the group has to walk home. The car they just stole.
Yep. So Jack decides to go to a bar.
Yeah, and the bartender really likes his coat. But there is this kind of, again, this indication that people are treating the after times differently, because there's whole cups filled with chips, sobriety chips, that people have given up to drink now that they can't die, I guess.
Right, and even in the sex scene that we're about to launch into, the bartender guy goes like, he says like, no need for protection. No one, diseases aren't deadly anymore. I was talking about STDs.
Mm-hmm.
To which Jack then responds, interestingly, it's Jack here, because Jack seems to be taking this. Jack seems to be the one who, if Torchwood is taking this lightly, he seems to be the driving force behind that, But he reminds this bartender guy, like, nah, man, like, nah.
Nah, man.
He reminds him that, like, yeah, it's not death, it's a lifetime of suffering or whatever.
Yeah, he says that it's not dying. Lifetime just got a lot longer.
Right. As all this is going on, there's another simultaneous sex scene between who else but Rex and Vera.
Right.
Because Rex just shows up at her apartment unsolicited and lets himself in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this was interesting. It was unique to have two simultaneous sex scenes. Because usually when you're doing something like this, with the simultaneity between two characters, you're doing it to, like, the simultaneity of things the two characters are doing that are similar. You're doing it to indicate a similarity or a difference between the two characters.
Right.
So I'm interested to kind of think about, like, what does this say about Jack and, like, Rex? And I think it's kind of indicating that the two of them are not as different as they both think that they are.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
When faced with a bad situation, they both run to... I don't want to say run to sex, because that makes it sound so, like, meaningless to both of them. But it is kind of what they both do in this episode, is that, like, when things go to pot, both of their first responses is to find someone they can just have a good, long, horizontal tango session with.
Yeah, they both just kind of run away from the situation that they have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
That's concurrent, or not concurrent, but that tracks with exactly what Jack did at the end of Children of Earth.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I like about this season so far is that it's not dropping Children of Earth from... Like, it's still considering it, especially later on when Jack confronts Oswald, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, what, did you expect it was going to just ignore Children of Earth?
Look, my hopes were high, but my brain was realistic.
All right.
Because when in God's name in Doctor Who have they ever really carried plot threads like that forward?
I mean, now with Jodie Whittaker is really the one time in Modern Who they were doing it, because this is something I touched on our blog. Check that out, because we have that now and have for the past like 3 months, a weekly blog. But something I touched on in one of the posts there was that, like, in the Stephen Moffat era, for example, each season just was all out. They just put everything they had into it. And then each, like the season after it, would just have to one-up it. Whereas now I think things are being considered over a much longer time span.
But not even that. Like, even on a more base scale, like, even in the Stephen Moffat era, even though there are overarching plot lines in the season, it was so rare that those plot lines had any impact outside of the season to which they were contained.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, like, to have Children of Earth as a character development point for Jack to carry it over into this season is was to me, I didn't have high hopes that they would do that, and I'm glad that they are.
yeah. And it's weird that like over Doctor Who and Torchwood, Jack is really the one character who's had this, who has had that like his plot has carried over and his characterization has carried over because it even did in Doctor Who in a way. Maybe not as heavily as here, obviously, because Jack is way more in the spotlight in Torchwood, but even still. And yeah, I mean, what is it about the Jack Harkness character that he is the character who has that, and not like something? It's not even the Doctor; it's Jack.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we'll talk about it a little more when we get to Jack's meeting with Oswald, because that meeting is probably the most interesting thing that happens this episode for me.
Yeah, and it's one of the darkest things Doctor Who and Doctor Who adjacent has ever given us.
So after they pound away the night,
God, God.
You're welcome. We should actually mention before that happens, Vera is at the conference again, the like ad hoc medical conference, and Jilly's there now. And people are continuing to bring up new like points about what do we have to do now, because one guy's like, look, we've got cholera in Boston now from India. And the other guy's like, what about abortions? Like, if the babies are actually alive when we perform the abortion, or so on and so forth, which that's not an argument we need to get into here, but he's basically saying like, well, how do we consider when it's okay and when it's not, and like,
Right.
And Vera is still on the thing like, we still need to figure out pain management, guys. Like, cholera doesn't matter if people are going to live in pain for the rest of their lives when they break their arm. Like,
but yeah, Jilly Kitzinger is there. She kind of you don't see her let herself in, but you have the impression that like, all right, she just kind of walked in and sat down at this table.
And then spills her drugs all over the table. And then, I don't know if you saw this, but just surreptitiously pops one in her mouth when she's putting them all back in her bag.
Yeah, I really like her character so far. I really like, because she has these like introductions and these moments where it's just like she makes this dumb mistake, or appears to, right? It's just an act, but like, and then she totally just commandeers the situation. And she is a frightening character in that way.
So the reason why that's an important scene to mention is because now, in the post-coital discussion, Rex and Vera are talking about Phi Corp, and Vera's like, I met someone from Phi Corp. Her name's Jilly. Here's her card. She's invited me to a conference of sorts, and Rex is like, you gotta go, and she's like, no, I don't want to go. Then Rex messes up because Vera says if she had known the miracle was coming and she could have just kept her mom alive just a little longer, she would still be alive. And Rex says, you let your mom die because you didn't know. Don't you want to know why Phi Corp did this? And she's like, get out.
Right. She like took her mom off of life support, and then he basically insinuates that she killed her mom. Is what it was, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the exact line he says is, you let your mom die.
Right.
So
she gets mad at that, understandably.
Obviously, yes. Like, who wouldn't?
There's also, I forget where it is in the episode, but there's also mention of Ianto, and how the Jack and Gwen are like, man, if only this had happened sooner, Ianto wouldn't have had to die. No mention whatsoever of Tosh and Owen.
Yeah, this is in Jack's post-coital moments. Because he's drunk and he calls Gwen and he's like, hey, what up, Gwen? Just wanted to hit you with some heavy stuff. Like, if And Gwen is, I think, the one who brings it up. Like, if it had happened a little sooner, Eonto would still be alive. Which, can you imagine Miracle Day happening, like, while Children of Earth is happening? Like,
Yeah, imagine like take all the Doctor Who like invasions and supernatural worldwide like events and just what if they all happened at once?
I mean, if you want a really wild TARDIS wiki page, the like November 23rd, 1963 page is kind of hilarious because I think since it is the anniversary of Doctor Who, there are like at least half a dozen to a dozen stories that all allegedly take place on that day, including Remembrance of the Daleks, if I'm remembering correctly, the Seventh Doctor Dalek story. The one with the big egg orb that Davros is in, that's the one where he blows up Skaro. Like, I think that takes place on November 23rd, but is one of multiple stories that take place that day, implying that, like, 4 incarnations of the Doctor were running around London that day.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine, like, just being a civilian in the Doctor Who universe and just knowing every November 23rd that, like, some terrible stuff is going to happen.
That could actually make for a really interesting Big Finish audio drama. Just don't steal this idea. I'm gonna write it for the next competition. I'm gonna write it. The wheels are turning already.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks. Anyway,
this scene, like, so Jack, you know, obviously he's drunkenly calling Gwen, and he's like, "Hey, Gwen, like, we make a pretty good team, huh? And we're back in action." But as all this is happening, Reese has actually video called Gwen, and she's talking with Reese and their daughter, and she's like totally not paying attention to Jack.
I think it's Esther who calls Reese, because Esther has a line like, "I'm bouncing the signal off of like multiple satellites, but you've only got a few minutes, but here's Reese."
Right. And so in this scene, you can see that, like, Gwen really has, to some extent, you know, moved on with her life, whereas Jack is really just stuck in, I guess, the glory days of Torchwood and wants that to return.
Yeah. I mean, that is, I think, one of the themes I took away from this episode was that Jack is really trying to revive Torchwood. You know, like how the people can't die, I think there's something interesting in the season in that Torchwood can't die either, like the institution, the idea of Torchwood. Because, you know, the Torchwood Institute as a physical place is gone, but Torchwood, the idea, Torchwood, the people, still exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so, it's like, yeah, it's like and you think about it, and it's like Jack maybe wants to revive Torchwood or wants to, like, revel in the idea that him and Gwen are back as a team and everything, but, like, what is he really trying to revive? Like, series 1 and 2, if we want to call those like Jack's glory days in Torchwood, where he assembled the team and he put them all together and he solved the issues and all the supernatural events. But, like, there were a bunch of atrocities committed in that era as well. So, like, what are you trying to revive, you know?
And I think Rex even calls Jack out on that in this episode, because Jack's kind of giving the orders and Rex says something like, "I seem to remember you got all the other Torchwood people killed." And he's like, "They were my friends." And Rex goes, "You're dead friends."
Right.
Which, whew. I mean, in the moment, you're like, oof, that's a low blow, Rex. But, like, he's not wrong. He's not entirely wrong. But still.
Yeah. So they employ the lenses that they used in the last season.
Yeah, now given the name I-5, which we've heard the name I-5 before, right? Or is that new? I wasn't sure.
I can't remember. We've heard MI5.
Yeah,
because we said it last week.
Yeah, amazing.
We've heard high five because that's the thing that exists in the real world.
Shocking. Shocking. So Rex actually makes it back to
The room.
the room, yeah, the
the
base
movie,
of
The Room.
operation before Jack does. Jack wanders in, hungover, terribly hungover, the next day, and he's like, "I thought you were gone, Rex." And Rex is like, "Some of us still have work to do."
Right. This is when they reveal the lenses to Rex, and he's amazed and surprised. And they're planning on infiltrating this conference.
Mm-hmm.
Which they do. Gwen goes in with the lenses.
She lies at this point. She tells Rex that they're biologically keyed to her eyes only, basically, which isn't true. And that's why she has to go and not Rex. Vera does come around and tell them that they'll get them in, basically. So.
Right, and that's exactly what happens. She lets Gwen in to the conference, which we find out is a lot bigger than Vera or even we, or I at least, thought. Because there's just dozens, maybe even hundreds of people there.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And actually, before we go too deep into that, let's talk about what we all want to talk about that we don't really want to talk about is Oswald Danes getting beat up on the side of the road because that's how Jilly reconnects with him.
Oh, right.
He goes to get food from a diner and someone recognizes him and they're like, let's beat him up. And they say something that they're not even wrong about. They're like completely right. They're like, if you don't want to get recognized, don't put your name on, don't put your face on TV. Because like Oswald is pretending he's someone else and like he doesn't want them to recognize him as the guy who killed the kid. But they're like, if you don't want to be recognized, don't put your face on TV. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's just riding this whole, like, I'm a murderer, rapist, and pedophile thing straight to the top. Like, what does he think? Like, what's going on here, you know? I mean, yeah, one question is obviously, what are you thinking, man? Like, what are you thinking? But the other question is, like, how is this even happening?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This being, like, him becoming, like, super famous and popular and basically worshipped, given his past.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, by the end of this, there is the like, hero worship that is going to turn into, like, actual worship soon enough.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, he runs into some cops, and they say they'll take him back to the apartment where he's being held, but they just take him into a back alley and beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, and they turn to him and they go, "You should have run faster, Oswald."
Yeah, another thing that rings different in 2021, you know, the police brutality thing. Although, you know, I mean, in this case, like, he's a former rapist and pedophile, like, so, you know, you don't really feel too bad about it, but still.
And a murderer. Don't forget murder.
Yeah. Can't forget how him draining the life from her body was the best day of his life or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say retroactively by the end of the episode, you were like more on the side of the people beating him up like by the end of the episode than when it starts.
Yeah. God, that entire sequence that we're about to get to, actually.
Yeah, in just a second, because Gwen sees Oswald at the meeting and is like, that's kind of weird. But she goes in. She's basically trying to steal some information from a computer.
From a flash drive conveniently left in the keyboard.
Vera has to call Jilly to distract her so that, like, she doesn't find Gwen. But we don't actually see when Jilly gets back to talk to Vera, like, what? Do they actually talk about something? Like, what is Vera's play here? Like, oh, shoot, sorry, didn't mean to call you.
I just wanted to tell you that thing, you know, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the thing.
We get a nice classic Who, like, hiding in plain sight moment where Gwen is just, like, behind this shelf And yeah, Julie doesn't turn her way, but it did kind of remind me of like all those times in classic Who where they'd just be hiding in quotes, and but yet they'd be like just standing right there.
The most egregious example of that, and I bring this up every time we talk about it, is that Dalek whose eye stalk like makes direct eye
Yeah.
contact with someone when he like drives through the door, and he's just completely
It was in Dalek
oblivious.
Invasion of Earth, I think. I think it happened multiple
That's right.
times
Yeah, I
actually, but
believe it
that was the
was.
most prominent one. And it was like I just like to believe that Dalek was just like, you know what, you go for it, guys. Like we're doing the wrong thing here, and I don't have the power to stop it, but you do. It just lets them go.
So yeah,
But yeah, Gwen gets the info, and she, I think, heads on out of there.
this is also when we see Congressman Morgenthau, who appears on screen at the meeting and basically talks about how he's gonna introduce legislation to make it so that all pain medication can be purchased without insurance by anybody. And it's not making it free for people; it's just making it so that they can purchase it. And this is when I think Esther and Jack are like, that's why Corp is doing this, because they're going to make bank when people buy all the pain medication that they're
Right.
selling.
So again, a drug related plan, just like Children of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
This time they're obviously trying to sell drugs and not use them. But even
Yep.
still, like it's something to point out at least. At this point, Oswald Danes is about to make his like appearance or whatever to not sponsor this, but to, I don't know what the word is. I guess I'm blanking on the word. But like to verify it, yeah,
Advocate
advocate
for
for
it.
it. Because yeah, I mean, apparently he's just a massive celebrity now. Jack confronts him though, and this is the scene
We've been
we've
alluding to
yeah, and it's very
forever.
disturbing.
Yeah, Jack pulls out a recorder and he basically tells Oswald that he just wants to get it on the record. He just wants to get it on the record. And he asks him about if, because he references the interview we saw at the start of the episode where Oswald says he feels forgiven for what he's done. And Jack basically says, "You don't really feel forgiven. Like, I know that's a lie. Like, I know you don't feel forgiven." And Oswald's like, "Well, how do you know?" And the silent implication is, "Well, because I killed my own grandkid last season, dog."
Yeah, yeah, and basically, and had to put down in quotes his own brother,
Mm-hmm.
and got a lot of other people killed, which he blames on himself, even though they're not, in the same realm of what Oswald did. But yeah, that's why he's questioning Oswald, and Oswald basically just goes like, "Yeah, it was a lie. I don't really feel bad about anything. In fact, it was the day I did it was the best day of my life."
Yeah, he goes into like detail about the life leaving her. He talks about how she flaunted her little body all over the place, and it's like just, you feel so uncomfortable and slimy listening to him revel in it.
Yeah, yeah, it's just really uncomfortable to watch. One of the darkest things that this podcast has ever touched on, and probably ever will.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Mm-hmm. And Jack basically says he's going to broadcast this recording since they're in the recording studio. He's going to broadcast it to the world, and Oswald's like, "Good idea, except for this. Boys, take him outside. Get rid of him."
And some FICOR guys come in and just take down Jack.
Ficor goons, take him down.
Yeah.
And some lady basically runs up to Jack and is like, "Did you see him? Did you see Oswald?" And Jack's like, "What?" And he's like, "Did you touch him? Did you touch Oswald?"
Yeah, this is so weird to me. I mean, I know I said this before like twice already, but like, man, It's just so odd that Oswald has become a celebrity, and not
Is
only,
it though?
well, maybe not. Yeah, I don't know, but like, it's not only that he's become a celebrity, it's that he's become a celebrity on, like, yeah, just being all the things we mentioned before, like a murderer, rapist, and pedophile. Like that's his claim to fame, you know.
Yes, but again, look at the people who are popular
Yeah.
now
All
in
right.
culture.
All right.
We were just talking about Joss Whedon, and like I think before we started recording, you made the point that like yeah, he's probably going to continue getting jobs. Maybe not as high profile as he did before, and I'm referencing after all the allegations came out with regards to his verbal, emotional, and potential sexual abuse on set of things like Buffy and Angel. And I mean, look at Harvey Weinstein, dude.
Yeah.
Sexually abused, insulted tons of people, and had a job for years.
Yeah, the
And
weird thing to me though about Danes is that like all the people, who you just mentioned that we were talking about before we started recording are like they have other things that they're famous for, right? Joss Whedon is famous for the shows that he's written and created. Whereas like Oswald is like literally famous because of these crimes that he committed and for surviving the death penalty.
yeah, I mean, I guess all the people that have already been mentioned were famous before everything came
Yeah.
out about them. Um, but hey, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, the fact that these people stayed famous
Yeah.
after the things came out makes it more believable that someone could become famous off the back
Yeah.
of this. Especially if he's peddling this whole, like, I feel forgiven, like, I repent. Like in the last episode, in episode 2, when he's got that whole long breakdown on TV where he's like, I'm sorry, crying on TV. Like, if he's playing into that, like, I seek forgiveness from the Lord aspect, like, I know a non trivial amount of people who would believe that. Not personally, just in general.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Perhaps there is a commentary on society being made in Torchwood in the fact that he gets uh, famous. Maybe the commentary is that it's possible, like the possibility of him getting famous is the commentary on, like, maybe we should look at who we consider our heroes in society.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any way that that isn't true, you know? Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and of course the whole like we're making bank off of like this massive amount of suffering here is also inherent in the episode and probably will be for the rest of the season.
Right.
I think I basically touched on everything I really wanted to talk about. There are a few like just random funny things I wanted to point out, but other than that,
Yeah, so the episode pretty much ends there. I guess we should just quickly explain. Jack gets thrown out, and he meets back up with the team, and that's where the episode ends with Oswald's. The episode is bookended actually by Oswald's interviews, one in the beginning and one at the end, which is interesting. And then we get the preview for next week where they're going to LA. It looks like
hell
going to
yeah.
LA.
Heck yeah. Finally, a Doctor Who story set close to home. For the first time, like ever, I think, on the podcast at least.
Have they really never like had one set in LA?
I
Damn,
don't
now
think
you've
so.
got me thinking about it, and I think you're right, actually. But you know what'll tell us? You know where I
TARDIS
can
wiki.
check TARDIS.fandom.com. Just punch into the search bar Los Angeles, and
Apparently, it was in the Daleks' master plan. I don't remember that though. I'm just looking at Los Angeles list of appearances.
Oh yeah, that's. I saw that page. I should have clicked on that page.
It seems like the biggest appearance of LA is like, yeah, for the rest of this season, looks like they're in LA.
Yeah, I see here in 2011, and there's a whole section just on Miracle Day.
There's a couple audios, a bunch of novels.
Looks like Sarah Jane Adventures 2. It appeared once in the very first episode, in fact, of Sarah Jane Adventures.
Oh, well, would you look at that?
Why would you look at that? Wow.
Oh, it was in Mad Dogs and Englishmen. We've actually covered that for the podcast, but I don't remember LA being in it.
I also, that book, I saw the cover of that book the other day, and I'm like, wait, I've read that book, but I couldn't tell you a single iota of the plot.
It was about those, like, space dogs who, like, wanted to make this movie from Earth or something. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, no, I remember it being weird and involving alien space dogs, and also involving a sleepy village in England somehow.
Yeah, and it had one of the villains was like a British celebrity. I can't remember who, and he used those scissors to like jump through time and space.
Oh yeah, the time travel scissors. Okay, you know what? We'll just link our episode in the show notes, and people can just go listen to that because that book was just insanity.
I loved that book at the time. I consider that one of my favorite Doctor Who stories ever at the time, and I think if I read it again, I probably still would.
I do remember. I think I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a Paul Mars story.
Yeah, it was a Paul Mars story.
Yeah. Flashback to that time I thought Paul Mars listened to us for like 20 seconds and got like really excited.
No, that was Paul Morris, who also reminded me / us that there are 5-episode serials in Doctor Who. I think a couple weeks ago, Keon was like, have we ever had a 5-episode serial? Was reminded that, yes, in fact, we have had 5-episode serials. Do I remember what they were? No, not really. Again.
I can just scroll up.
Oh, yeah, Mind Robber, and Dominators.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mind Robber was supposed to be 4, but they just, like, they had to add one for some reason, so the first episode just, like, has nothing to do with the other 4.
Was that the one where, like, Jamie gets frozen and then like the Doctor puts them together wrong and we have fake Jamie for 2 episodes? Was that one?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the one that recently on Twitter there was a minor scandal because someone took all the like cut up faces and assembled them, and they're like, wow, it was impossible for the Doctor to assemble real Jamie from those pictures that he was given because none of them is actually Fraser Hines.
Yeah, the game was rigged all along.
The game was rigged from the start. Jeez.
Anyway, the couple things I wanted to mention here, just some random funny things I noticed. When they go into the Phi-Cor warehouse, Jack references the TARDIS where he goes, it's bigger on the inside.
Yeah.
The other thing was I noticed this season has an executive producer named Skip Schooling, which was just, yeah, I mean, if you have Skip School in your name, like, yeah, you know that person's cool.
Skipping school is cool, boys.
Yeah, like that guy, I don't know why or how I know this, and I'm going to regret even admitting it, but like the guy from Vampire Weekend who has Batman in his last name. I don't remember what his last name is. It's actually a Persian name, so I should know, but like Batman is within his last name.
Wow, I've even listened to music by Vampire Weekend, like, a lot, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're not bad.
I see. I've opened the page on them on Wikipedia, and I see you're right. There is Batman. It's Batman, and then it's Glij afterwards. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it.
Yeah, I should know how to pronounce that. If I saw that written in Farsi, I would know how to pronounce it, but whatever.
There's an IPA pronunciation guide on Wikipedia, but anyway, we don't need to go into this.
Yeah.
So yeah, the episode ends there, and that's that. That's that. I don't actually have much to talk about. Like I said, I think like you said, Keon. Mostly what I wanted to talk about was the scene between Oswald and Jack. Jack is really going in on Oswald as a connection to this whole Miracle Day thing, and I think part of that is his guilt over Children of Earth, basically. So I'm curious to see that explored more going on now that they've met.
Yeah, and this is definitely like Doctor Who does this a lot, especially with the Doctor, the Master, obviously. But this is like you're just like me, type thing with the villain, this is like the one case where it comes across as like, actually, no, like, Jack has done some pretty bad stuff, but like, not even close to what Oswald freaking did. Like,
and also, yeah, like, Jack, first off, he didn't sleep with the kid he killed, or raped them, I should say. And two, he only did it because he had the choice to save the world. Like, Oswald wasn't killing this girl to save the world from something.
Also doesn't, like, feel remorse for it whatsoever, whereas Jack obviously does. So this is the one case where the villain going, like, you're just like me, you can really say, like, no, actually.
No, like, not really. Nah.
Nah, man.
You're wrong, dude. Like, nah. We're nothing alike.
But speaking of sinners, like Oswald, how many sins did Gwen commit this week?
I don't know. I think she's still committing pride, like, week over week.
Sure, yeah. I mean, she looks her child in the eyes, and you can just see that her pride in, like, her child. So yeah, of course.
I mean, she chews out Rex again for leaving her kid behind. She basically takes control of the team. I don't know. I think.
Oh yeah, she acts really high and mighty when she reassures Esther. When Esther reveals that, like, her sister. I forget what she actually says about her sister, but it's like she can't take care of herself for whatever reason. We don't find out why yet, if we ever will. But, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think we will. I don't think that's something that just got dumped in the episode for no reason. Just a theory. Look, okay, I'll fully admit this is just a theory, that it's going to come back, that it's going to play a part somehow, that we're going to learn more.
Yeah,
I could be completely
maybe
wrong.
It's going to be something where it's like, I don't know how this would play out, so, don't even get me on the details here, but, like,
got it. Get you on the details.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be a whole thing where, like, Ficor and the Miracle actually have a positive effect on Esther's sister somehow. So, like, she, at the end, has to make this choice of, like, do we shut down the Miracle and revert things or keep going? I don't know. It just kind of seems like something that could happen.
Yeah, if I had to drop some money on it, I would say that's a good guess.
Yeah, throw in a little moral choice, always a good time.
Disagree, but
anyway, yeah, I don't think Gwen committed any other sins.
Yeah, I think she was clean this episode. But we got our eyes on you, Gwen, because we can only do this for 7 more weeks.
We have to make the most of it.
We really do. The British part of America, or the American part of Britain, the show did for us this week. Esther just dumps a whole list of, like, terms that Gwen has used that are Britishisms. Things like cash point instead of ATM, mobile instead of cell phone, crisps instead of chips, gas station instead of petrol station. These are the hard-hitting things Doctor Who needs to address. The linguistic differences between the UK and the US.
Exactly, and it's not even just the linguistic ones either. Gwen buys some lemonade, sinner that she is, and drinks it.
Sinner that she is for buying lemonade?
Yes.
What, greed? Gluttony?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, hey, gluttony. She drinks lemonade in the episode.
Oh my god.
And
if
comments,
you eat anything other than bread and drink other than water, gluttony.
Yeah, all you can eat is raw flour, and all you can drink is water, okay?
Have you ever tasted raw flour?
I don't think so. Wait, so when people say raw flour, is that just flour out of the bag, or is that like...
Yes.
Okay, yeah, then yes.
It's not good.
No, it's not. And it's like, if you have a spoonful of that, I feel like you would just, like, dehydrate your throat and, like, start dying.
Cinnamon challenge reborn. Flour challenge. The most amazing thing is that you combine flour, butter, and water and you get pie crust, and it tastes great if you bake it, but like just the raw ingredients just taste terrible.
Look, okay, I've been a proponent of this for a long time, and water
Uh-oh.
does not taste bad, all right? First of all,
No, okay,
water.
no, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I agree. I agree on that front. The other ingredient, like the raw pie dough, so the flour, water, butter combo tastes terrible
yeah.
before you bake it.
Oh, before. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. All right. Yeah, I'm sure just eating like a raw stick of butter, or I guess it's not raw because it's processed, but like, yeah, just a stick of butter,
I don't
which
think, yeah.
for any for all the British people listening to this, deep fried butter is like a classic American fare food, where it's just like you put a stick of butter, a full stick of butter, on a stick and deep fry it and eat it. And
Okay,
it's
no, but okay, you cover it in batter first. You
yes,
cover it in
yes,
the like crispy batter that you fry things in first.
yeah.
Then
Otherwise, it
you
would just
fry
be
it.
like here's your stick, not of butter. It's just a stick because it melted off.
Look, the American fairground food is the most confusing confluence of
Oh yeah,
culinary ideas in
yeah,
the history of the universe. That is the greatest sentence I've ever said.
yeah. Yeah, just I'd type that sentence, print it out, and frame it. I've when I used to work at fairs, two of the most confusing foods that they would peddle there. And I use that word deliberately. Are Twinkies with caviar.
Oh my
So it
god!
would be yeah,
Oh, I saw that because I know exactly like the fairs you used to work at, and I've been to them.
yeah. Twinkies with caviar was one. The other was a pickle and a popsicle. So it was a pickle on a stick with an outer layer of popsicle.
Yum. I mean, my favorite thing about the fair was how you could get deep fried anything. Anything you can think of, it's been deep fried at a fair somewhere in the US. Pickles, Oreos, ice cream, raw butter, bananas,
Yeah.
like full on 3-course meals, steak, like it's all been deep fried. Deep fried fries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I don't know.
How did we even get on this topic? What were we even talking about? Oh, right. I was talking about how
Butter,
Gwen
flour,
drinks the
bread,
lemonade
greed.
and she says that it's flat. I didn't know this, but apparently lemonade is carbonated in the UK.
Yeah, I didn't know this either. Didn't know this either.
Yeah. But hey, whatever. That actually sounds better than flat lemonade, to be perfectly honest.
Carbonated lemonade.
Yeah.
You can make your own by mixing Sprite and Minute Maid lemonade. You probably wouldn't taste the same, but
Yeah, just mix some carbon with lemonade. Just raw, like, diamond.
just make a soda fountain special. Get everything on the soda fountain in your cup.
Oh my god. I don't know why we're going so heavily into this, but one of the most disgusting ideas I've ever heard anyone mention was like a dairy soda fountain. So you'd have like milk, you'd have like milkshakes, and just like, yeah, imagine how just like disgusting and like crusty that thing would be after like an hour.
I mean, look, okay. Spoiler alert, that's basically how you get, like, if you're getting, like, a McFlurry or ice cream or anything
Yeah.
dairy related from, like, a fast food store, restaurant, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
It's just basically a fountain machine that dispenses it for you.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of fast food is you don't have to see it produced. Like,
Unless you go into the store and, like, you order a McFlurry and they make it right there because the machine's right there by the counter. How's this going to affect Jack this week?
probably pretty heavily, and it probably is going to affect him in an ongoing way. You know, with Oswald rubbing in his murder of his grandson. Inadvertently, obviously, because Oswald doesn't know what he has done, but is still just rubbing it in anyway.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, you like that, don't you?
Yeah, I think he says like he can see it in Jack's eyes where he's like he's a killer or something like that.
Yeah. We all know Jack's a killer. I mean, he just straight murders fools, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean he's the one who really keeps killing Susie. So, and yeah, I mean now that we mention it, we joked about that last week, or I did rather. And maybe it's not
You did,
it's
yeah.
not as much of a joke as we thought that like the girl Oswald killed, her name was Susie, right? That was the first person Jack actually did away with on the show.
Good, good thinking. Maybe that is intentional. Maybe that's intentional. Because the first person we see Jack kill in Torchwood is Susie. In
Everything changes. Yeah.
Everything Changes. It's something interesting to keep in mind, I guess, as we move forward.
Yeah. Anyway, I know we didn't get any emails this week, and we didn't have any Facebook comments either, but we did actually have some responses on Twitter, so
nice.
Yeah. So Steven responded to The New World, so that was the first episode of this season, by saying, I forgot how lame the Torchwood theme song was this season. Lol.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And yeah, that's a good point, Steven. It is actually really lame, because we didn't even talk about the new intro sequence where it goes like, one day nobody died, next day nobody died, the next day the world's population was like off the charts or something along those lines. Verbatim, it literally says the next day the world's population was like off the charts. No, it's just like a counter of billions upon billions of people.
It's a counter that's going slow, I guess, to symbolize pre-Miracle Day increased levels, and then fast to do the post-Miracle Day increases. Look, if what's his name from Inferno had just gotten his plan to work, the movie, not the book, we wouldn't be in this situation. It wouldn't be as bad. I'm just making oblique references to Inferno because Keon hasn't watched it yet for Triple Play, but I have.
Yeah, we're watching the Da Vinci Code trilogy for Triple Play, our movie trilogy podcast, and that won't even be out for a while, so...
Yeah, till we finish the next season of Inevitable, at least.
And yeah, the Da Vinci Code is, like, not a good trilogy whatsoever.
Yeah, spoilers, the main villain of Inferno basically creates a virus that'll wipe out 50% of the world's population because he thinks that we're going to overpopulate the world in the next 40 years. So,
in the next 40 years, like as if it isn't already, like...
Well, I think God, I can't believe I'm going into Inferno. His point is that we're at 8 billion now almost, and in 40 years we'll be at 40 billion people. And that's what he's trying to avoid, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, we had another comment here from Very Pete Lambert, a.k.a. Prof. Quite a Mess.
Still a great Twitter handle, by the way.
So anyway, he says, I've been looking forward to this because, even more than others, it's a bit of Doctor Who I have no memory of at all beyond the premise. And then he and Keith got into a whole conversation where I'm not going to read the entire thing, but they're talking about how Pete was wondering how this affected 12-year-old Yaz and Ryan, and I was like, yeah, it's a good point.
Would they have even been aware? Would they have been aware at 12 that anything is different?
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on how much they watch the news, I guess.
True, yeah. But I'm trying to think back to when I was 12. How aware was I of world events?
Yeah.
How aware would I be that people just stopped dying? And presumably this will be resolved in under a year. Let's be generous here. I think it's going to be a lot quicker than that, but let's be super generous and say the season takes a year. Even still, I don't know. trying to think if I even knew who the president was when I was 12.
Oh, I definitely didn't. I knew that for sure.
Who was president when I was 12? That was 9 years ago. That would have been Obama. Yeah, I guess I knew that Obama was president. No, it would be more than 9 years ago. Sorry, that was 2012. Would be 9 years ago, which is when this aired. 10 or
Yeah,
12.
yeah,
Would have
roughly.
It would have been when I was 12. Well, it would have
We were
been
12 in 2008. That's when we turned 12. Just revealing our
yeah.
ages
So
there.
which we've done multiple times on the show before.
Yeah.
So that would have been Bush. The Bush, because the
Yeah.
election would be in 2008.
Right. I mean, I was aware, obviously, of that whole entire election.
Yeah, I guess I was aware it was happening. I wouldn't say I was like I knew anything about it.
Yeah, neither did I. I mean, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it was like Yaz like broke a bone or something and it didn't it didn't heal and she just kind of stayed that way. I don't know.
I feel like Ryan would be the one more likely to break a bone just because he had that coordination
Yeah,
disorder
dyspraxia, yeah.
or problem,
Sure.
dyspraxia. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, mainly saying that because even at the end of the series, Chris Chibnall still couldn't give him the satisfaction of like letting him ride that bike without just face planting in the final frame that we ever see Ryan in.
His last thing to do on Doctor Who is fall off the bike. No, I think it's a nice moment and it's one that I've gone into on our blog as well. So, yeah.
I kind of think we'll see him again. I just have a hunch. I have a hunch that we'll see Graham and Ryan in a guest appearance one more time. Just a hunch.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
But on that hunch, I don't have anything more to talk about for Torchwood.
Yeah, neither do I.
So if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Dead of the Night. Or Dead of Night, sorry. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and anywhere you find your podcast at Trust Your Doctor. You should leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast. And follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching Escape to LA. But until then, the end.